Welcome to Healing Childhood Trauma, the podcast for millennial women who are ready to heal from the past. Here, we have the deeper discussions on emotional well-being and practical tips that will empower you to transform your relationships and underlying anxiety from insecure to secure attachment. I'm Lysandra, your host and psychotherapist. I'm a little bit obsessed with human development, deep conversations, and finding the lesson even in the most challenging of circumstances. I'm very happy to have you with me on this journey of self-discovery where we unpack the past and heal in the present. Good morning, good evening, whatever time it might be in your part of the world when you are tuning in and listening. For me, it's the late afternoon and I have just finished with a few of my clients and I've got one more call to do later, but I thought, let me just squeeze in this episode because as I was scrolling, as you do on Instagram, this little clip from Sex and the City came up and the algorithm was algorithming. Is that a word? I'm making it a word. And basically it showed me a little clip from Sex and the City where the girls are sitting and having their usual brunch. Now, if you are too young to remember Sex and the City, maybe you're a little bit young to be listening to this podcast, but anyway, this show was all the rage back in like the early noughties, and when I was watching it, I was probably too young to even understand properly like the themes of things. So I've gone back to watch it, and there's been so many things about watching it that has stuck out for me. And I don't know if you know much about Sex and the City, but it's all about trying to work through relationships. It's a bunch of these 30-something women who are trying to navigate through basically insecure attachments in relationship when you look at it from a therapist lens. But it's basically like, does he like me? Do I like him? Navigating through breakups and all the typical things that can happen in relationships, right? And so Charlotte, which is one of the characters, talks about instead of looking for soulmates in these men that they're trying to work out, is he into me? Is he not into me? Why does he 1 minute want to be with me and then the next minute he's cold and distant? If you watch Sex and the City, you know that I'm referring to Big. But then she says, instead of relying on these men, what if we could all be soulmates? What if our soulmates were each other and we're there for each other through the ups and the downs? We are there to be the emotional support and the love for each other that we just know is there, and we don't have to try and guess what's happening with our friendships because we just know that no matter what happens, we are there for each other. And I thought that was such a lovely sentiment because when we talk about attachments, there's always so much focus on romantic love and that being the be all and end all. And that's how we, especially as women, that's how women sometimes are given their purpose or their sense of worth, depending on what their relationship status is. And whether this is like your first introduction to me, or maybe you've been following me on various different channels for a while, but you may or may not know that that's not really something that I subscribe to. Although I have been in a relationship for a long time, I don't really subscribe to this idea of your importance or your worth is based on your relationship status, and that having a secure attachment is just all based on, does this person love me? Am I lovable? Can I spend my life with someone? Because attachments and relationships and healing they're about more than just one relationship. And I think the romantic side gets idealized into being everything. And it's just not everything. No one relationship is. But I thought it was a really beautiful point to talk about the role of friendship in attachment, because that's really where the gold is. That's really where you can do so much healing without as much of the second guessing and a lot of the drama that can sometimes come, particularly in those earlier stages of relationships, if you are dealing with somebody who is avoidant or who might have a disorganized attachment style. This has been something also on my mind as I've recently had a girls' trip So one of those ones where, you know, you have the WhatsApp chat and you want to book a girls' trip. Well, this girls' trip actually made it out of the group chat. I'm quite lucky because the friendship, or one of the friendship groups that I have, we are quite intentional and it's just quite easy to do things. And so it wasn't this big thing of let's all plan a trip. It was just very organic. A few of us had decided that we wanted to go and have a trip somewhere, like a short break, get some sun, just relax, no kids, no husbands, no partners, just literally girls eating, drinking, sunbathing, all of that good stuff. And so we just put it into the group with the rest of the girls and said, this is the dates we're going. This is the flight times we have. If you want to come, book your tickets and we will have a great time. And eventually everyone just was just like, yeah, I can do those dates. Or if they couldn't do the dates, they did the dates that they could do. And maybe they had minus one of the days and like went home a little bit earlier. But we all flew out there together. We had the best time. And there was so much, there was laughter, there was tears, there was so many jokes, loads and loads of bottles of kava. Probably looked like we were having a massive party. And in some ways we did. But it was just about us being girls, reconnecting, and it just reinforced for me the importance and the value of having positive and healthy female relationships and investing time into that, investing the energy that sometimes we put into our romantic relationships and putting that back into ourselves and our own identities and our relationships just outside of being romantically connected. If I could do it every year, I would. Hell, if I could do it every month, I probably would as well. But everybody doesn't have that. But if you do, in some form, utilize that, capitalize that, especially if you have an insecure attachment or you just feel like you're lacking maybe even in the relationship department. Don't lose focus of the relationships that you do have and the people that are willing to show up for you and want to spend time with you, where you don't have to guess if this person wants to be around you or not, because they are actively showing you that you're important and that you matter. Those kind of friendships and relationships are worth their weight in gold and are extremely healing for secure attachment. And the benefits of you doing this with your female friendships and your female relationships is just going to have a better impact on your emotional well-being. Because again, you are pouring into yourself. You are having like a reciprocal encounter with someone or with a group of friends. It helps to build your trust in relationships, and it helps to have that mutual support in your female relationships as well, in your female friendships. And we do this by having consistent communication, and that might not mean talking every day because, you know, there's also adulting that takes place and not everybody has time to check in with their friends on a daily basis. But there might be the odd person that you speak to really frequently. Even just doing that, that's also something that's really soothing for your nervous system and healthy for your relationship. So having someone where you have some consistent communication and someone where you feel safe to be vulnerable and who also offers that sense of trust and reliability. Friendships and sisterhood are such an important part of you being able to stay connected to your own identity and who you are outside of whatever other roles you have in your life. Wife, sister, friend, carer, no matter what else you have going on in your life, if you also spend time connecting in your friendships, you also still get to connect with that part of you that is just you, the authentic version of you. And one of the really lovely things about having friendships is having those kind of people who are supportive of you through major life transitions and major changes, because life is full of ups and downs and full of change. And you can change in so many different ways in terms of like your personal development. You can change with the kind of relationships you have. Maybe you start a relationship, maybe you get married, maybe you become a parent, maybe you start a business, you know, all of these different things that change through the course of your life. And throughout this, it's really important and key to be able to have emotional support, because when you have emotional support, you can also use what we call in therapy, we use the term co-regulation. And you might have heard the term of like self-regulation, which is essentially you being able to notice what emotional state you're in and being able to have the tools to either calm yourself down or feel whatever emotion you're experiencing, even if that emotion is anger or even if it's frustration, like whatever the emotion is, allowing yourself to feel it. And when you do that for yourself, that's self-regulation. But when you have somebody who is almost like a supportive anchor, and a good example of that is also what happens when you're in therapy. So you're in co-regulation with somebody else. So somebody else is almost being like a calming presence, so that you're also picking up from their nervous system. So your nervous system is connecting with their nervous system. They're presenting and showing up as somebody who is like consistent, somebody who is caring, someone who is open. When you have those kind of reciprocal interactions, those are the things that are really, again, because it's co-regulation, it's calming for your nervous system. That's what we need in order to heal from attachment wounds and the other difficult experiences that we've had in the past. That's how we learn how to heal in relationships, because we do actually heal from relational trauma by having healthy, healing relationships, because we can't do that by ourselves. We can do part of that work by ourselves, but also a big part of that comes in the type of relationships we have. And even if you can never afford to have therapy, or it's just not accessible to you for whatever reason, a lot of that healing will come from the kind of environment you're in, from the kind of relationships that you have. And when you have those kind of female friendships, you get to share those experiences, you get to bond, and you get to learn like different experiences and unique experiences, and that can offer opportunities for you to learn more about yourself and helps you to form, better growth for yourself as well. But here's the thing, not everybody has that group of friends where it feels like you have that sisterhood and that feeling of belonging. And I do actually remember the first time around watching that, almost having like a pang of jealousy of, oh, I wish I could have that. I wish I could just like meet up with my girlfriends on a Sunday and we do brunch and we talk things through, and they're just there through thick and thin. I'm quite fortunate where I have an element of that now, but not everybody has that. And so if you are somebody listening to this and you're thinking, well, I don't really have that friendship group, I don't really have people that I've known for years and years, I find it really hard for me to make friends, I find it really difficult for me to be myself in friendships, and especially around women, then maybe this part you can connect with. We don't have to belong to a massive group to feel like we are in connection. They don't have to be women who we have literally grown up with from school, particularly if you're somebody who has moved around a lot, or you just haven't kept in touch with people from that long ago. But no matter what phase of or what stage of life you're in, it's never too late to make new friendships. And in order to do that, you kind of have to leave the house. Leaving the house actually helps. And doing new things, trying new things, putting yourself in new situations, maybe going places that you wouldn't usually go to, stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's one of the reasons why I also set up my group program, because of the kind of clients that I would see who would talk about very similar things and would feel alone and isolated. There's so many other women going through similar experiences to you. Although things feel very unique to you, I promise it's not as unique as you think it is. And there's so many more women who are looking for friendship, who are looking for connections and just haven't found their people yet. Or it doesn't even have to be people, just all it takes is one or two friendships. And one of the things that I get the women to do in my program, Secure, is that I get them to do a relationship audit, because quite often people will find that they're seeking these kind of female friendships and they're seeking these connections, but they're kind of disregarding the people that they've already got some form of connection with already. So consider the relationships that you already have. Even if it doesn't feel like it's particularly close, it's somebody who's already there. And maybe it's not about finding a new set of friendships. Maybe it's about opening your awareness to the people that you already have who are already a part of your life, that maybe you're just not utilizing, you're not connecting in the way that you could do. Or you are more than welcome to join the Facebook group, which is called Becoming Secure. There's a community of women in there. You can start being more intentional with the spaces that you're in. If you're not in the place where you have the kind of female friendships that you would, or that you've always been thinking of or yearning to have. Yes, romantic relationships are lovely, depending on the kind of relationship, right? Because not all relationships are. But if it's the right relationship, it can also bring lots of positive things into your life. But I think that's more the bonus rather than, you know, like the icing on the cake. Like, it's a good thing. It's a lovely thing if you have it. It's a lovely thing if you don't, particularly if you have secure attachment. When you have a secure attachment, you don't base your value on if you're in a relationship or not. If you have it, great. If you don't have it, also great. It doesn't define who you are. And that's why when it comes to any kind of relationship, you kind of need to have the idea of, like, you know who you are outside of that relationship. I tend to not focus on the romantic aspect of attachment and relationships because I think sometimes people overanalyze and overfocus. And I really saw this come up a lot in Sex and the City as well, where they're like, why does he do this? And trying to unpack all of his behaviors. And it's just like, who cares? If you spend all your time focusing on what somebody else does because they're not being clear with you, it's a waste of time and energy. Pour that energy into the relationships that show up for you. And that is the beauty of female relationships. Okay, I hope you have found this episode useful and helpful, and that it's gotten you to just think of things in a different way. And maybe it's making you think about that one friend that you need to reach out to and send them a WhatsApp message. Do it now, before you forget, before you put it off, before you chicken out and change your mind. Reach out to that friend and let's get better at female relationships. That do it now was so aggressive, but honestly, I'm saying it with love. Do it now. Okay, catch you soon. Bye. Thank you for joining this episode of Healing Childhood Trauma. I hope you found today's discussion insightful and empowering. Remember, healing is a journey and you are not alone on this path. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favourite podcast platform. And you can share this episode with a friend. Your feedback helps this podcast to reach more women who are ready to heal and build secure, healthy relationships and heal from the past.